Hello there. Another day, another Tory MP crawling their way onto television, leaving a trail of slime in their wake, and shamelessly attempting to discredit the Privileges Committee's report into Boris Johnson. This time, after the vote in Parliament took place on the outcome of that report. So I suspect this saga will drag on for quite some time. On this occasion, the Member of Parliament in question is the Right Honourable Dunning-Kruger, who... sorry, what? Danny? What? No, I've got here Dunning. Not Dunning-Kruger, Danny Kruger. Danny, okay. Apologies, folks. Apparently it's Danny Kruger, not Dunning-Kruger. He's going to make himself look like an imbecile, despite people trying their best to talk some sense into him, including Labour MP Barry Gardiner, who lands a slam dunk on the worthless waste of space, and Dr. Frank Luntz, the American pollster, delivering a stark warning about allowing Boris Johnson to become the British version of Donald Trump. This occurred on BBC's Politics Live. Let's have a gander.
Well, I stayed away very deliberately, and I attended some of the debate. I didn't have confidence in the process. Barry's right. Boris himself remains very popular among some quarters. He's extremely unpopular among other quarters, including of our own party. So it goes either way. I felt that the process itself was flawed, but most fundamentally...
So when you say the process, which process?
Well, I think the members of the committee had clearly predetermined the outcome of their investigation.
Oh, really? So would you call it a kangaroo court as well?
I wouldn't be. I don't want to malign them too much. I think the process itself was very difficult. It essentially has a judicial role, and yet it doesn't follow the processes of a proper court.
But just to be clear for our viewers, it is a role that actually Parliament undertakes. They are asked by Parliament to undertake this process. They are already there doing that role. They are there to enforce whether or not contempt has happened.
Yes.
That's their role.
Indeed, it's a very, very difficult role to fulfil, and I recognise they did their best with it, but I didn't approve of the process, and I didn't approve of the suspension. But the most important thing, hold on a second, Barry, is that Boris himself has left Parliament now. So the opposition have their scalp. The committee has achieved its objective, which is to expel him. I think the best thing for the country and the party is that we all move on now, and I didn't want to give the proceedings yesterday, more attention by supporting the division itself. So I think the best thing for us all to do now is to recognise the committee has had its way, and we should move on.
I think that's really dangerous to suggest that the process itself is what needs questioning. I think actually there were some notable Conservative voices, Penny Mordaunt being one, who I think made a very eloquent case for why it was important to the country that Parliament, elected politicians, are able to hold each other to account. This is an important part of our democracy, and if we can't do it, and we've got that many, dozens and dozens and dozens of MPs suggesting that the process itself is flawed, that is undermining democracy itself. And I think that we've got to be very careful with what we're saying there. But in terms of Rishi Sunak, I think he was frit. He was very, very worried about how this is going to look. His position is weak, and I think it just proves how weak he is.
How do you think it looked?
I've been through this. This is the United States in 2020, 2021, when Donald Trump was brought up for the second time for impeachment. And the Republicans gave the same exact argument that you just gave. It's done. This process isn't fair. Let's not look backward. Let's look forward. I saw it. I've lived through it. And I will tell you that is a big mistake.
Frank, if I may.
What matters...
Well, let him finish.
What matters in all of this is accountability in the end.
Absolutely.
And we have to hold our side, their side, everyone accountable. Boris Johnson had such an opportunity. He was given a mandate to make change. He behaved badly, which I think you'd agree. Whether or not the system is flawed, in the end, it's about accountability. And I was there in the chamber, and I saw the yelling going back and forth. On the sides, that may not have been picked up by the microphones. Yes, it is stressful, and yes, it does make the Conservatives look badly. But embrace accountability.
I recognise that, and I thank you. And you're absolutely right. You can't just move on when there's been a clear wrongdoing. The problem, I resent, I repudiate the comparison with Trump, because actually what we're dealing with here is a report which attempts to do something which I don't think is possible, which is to look into the mind of Boris Johnson and to conclude that he knowingly and deliberately, absolutely with full intention, misled Parliament.
The evidence was quite compelling.
Well, I don't think it is. That's my challenge to the report. And Layla's point, actually, what's dangerous to our democracy is allowing Parliament to decide what somebody was thinking inside their own head. If there's evidence that he lied, that's one thing. He clearly did mislead Parliament, but the question is whether he did so knowingly and deliberately and with intention.
Briefly,
the report does not prove that point. And
brief
that's
comments.
Danny, if in fact you have serious concerns about the process, do you not think it was incumbent upon you yesterday to go into the chamber precisely to say why you felt the process was wrong, how it should be improved? That would actually be to contribute to the ability of Parliament to do its job properly. But you didn't do that. You failed to record a vote.
Well, I'm here now, and my point is that it's over now. Boris is going. And
on that point, it's over now. Why are you so worried about that?
Because it was never over in the States. Donald Trump was defeated. He lost, correct?
Yeah.
There are 40% of Republicans who believe that he was duly elected president because we let the process, we wanted to move ahead. I've lived through this. There's a reason why I'm in the UK. I love this government. I love the people. I love this country. Don't make the same mistakes Americans
Boris
make.
is not Trump.
Well, all right.
No, Boris has written
and he's
more
not going to do
books.
what Trump did.
Boris has written more books than Donald Trump has read. So let's be clear about that. Still,
He's not challenging the legality of the process, nor am I. He's saying that the conclusion of the report was flawed.
All right, we're going to leave it
The
there.
sheer empty-headedness of it really is something to behold. The way Kruger says, well, I'm here now, like appearing on television, is in any way comparable to standing in Parliament to make your case. And this really is a significant problem we have in politics today, especially amongst Conservatives. They are acutely aware very few members of the public tune into live broadcasts of debates in the House of Commons. I do, and I get called a sad case by my family all the bloody time. And Danny here likely sees very little value in delivering this nonsense, this type of absolute garbage to Parliament, even though it's his damn job to do so. Especially when he knows he can just rock up to the BBC the following day and con the casual viewer to their face. It's the same logic behind why announcements from the government are leaked to the press prior to being read out in the House, because the press can spin it and present it to their viewers, readers or listeners in whichever way they see fit, prior to the opposition political parties being able to scrutinise it themselves. Sadly, Parliament has lost its grip, and the Speaker of the House has to take major accountability for this. It's simply not right a Member of Parliament like Danny Kruger here, or Brendan Clark-Smith last week, or Nadine Dorries every single Friday, can discredit their colleagues and parliamentary institutions on television, but contribute absolutely nothing to the parliamentary debate, and to put the cherry on the shit sandwich, not even bother to vote. It's absolutely pathetic. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm always grateful. Many thanks. See ya.